Hello, I'm Drake McLeod. This is my colleague.
This is Tanuki, local blacksmith up here in Vermont.
And this is LARP Living. Oh yeah. So today we're going to be going over a topic requested by you, the LARP community, and we're going to be doing some medieval smithing.
Yep.
So what are we making today?
So we're going to make a hanger hook. And so this one was generously provided to me by our buddy Stu. And I'm going to show two variations of this. This one's an offset grip hook. Now let's say you're camping in a period tent that has upright poles, right? You know,
Well,
like,
let's just start by what is this hook exactly? Like I've never used a hook like this before.
that's okay, and that's what I'm saying. It's for, say, you're in a period tent. Your poles are, you know, square, about 1.5 inches square. I just happen to know that from having made my own. So, let's say you want to hang up your cloak or lantern or your bag or something. So, this is the post. This is the hook. It goes onto the post. Okay. And the weight of the object, you can see in the camera, pinches the backside tighter in and locks it in place. Okay. These are great for quick portable stuff. In period, they didn't have a lot of fancy stuff, but sometimes they did. They had little tricks and ways around stuff. And a lot of it wouldn't be what you'd think it would be. Just the ability to, once metal is hot, it is roughly akin to clay, actually.
Oh, okay.
If you ever need to practice or try, go get a hammer. It doesn't matter. Go steal your dad's, go steal your mom's. Don't steal from Harbor Free, I guess. I'm not encouraging that. Actually, it's a great way to get a really cheap starter hammer. The long terms, hey, I found one in the dumpster that I still use. Let me this guy.
Don't steal from dumpsters, kids.
Good pair of tongs. You can buy them, you can find them, you can make them. You really can, actually. There's ways to start with just a piece of rod, make the two ends. Mm-hmm. No other tong required. If you have a rod like that long, you can use that as a handle safely. You can just keep cooling it in the water and then sticking the one end in the fire. If you're using coal, it's even easier.
Okay.
Brush. This is a really good brush. You can get a cheap brush. You can find a steel wire brush anywhere. Steel wire brush, don't use a nylon. Melt it. Or you can brass plate it with brass. Remember this in the story? This thing. Steel bar. Happens to be the size of the hole I want. Grab my finished product here. Either one of them. Fits the hole. You don't have to have it. You can measure it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a nice little thing to square it up on. You can get a piece, like this just happens to be a big piece I got. You can get a piece like that for like $1 at the steel store, or you can order them. But you get a couple of sizes. They're really handy to have around, just to kind of reference point.
Yeah. Okay.
Helps to have an original.
Yeah.
We have a hammer. This is a hammer made by another craftsman. Fantastic little piece of work. It's what my apprentice uses. I have a whole rack of hammers. I started out with one. It's my first hammer. Very standard pattern blacksmithing hammer. Nothing fancy.
Okay.
I don't even think it originally started as a blacksmithing hammer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might have actually been an engineer's hammer. And this is chalk holder. This really helps for marking stuff. There's other ways to do it, like using the edge of an anvil. You can tap it while it's cold and it'll make a little line.
Okay.
And an anvil, or anvil-like object. Highly recommend one of those. You can't do it otherwise.
Gotcha.
Well.
And of course,
A forge. Which there's a million little solutions to a forge. You can find out how to make them on the internet for gas forges. You can probably find an old riveting forge and just use hardwood charcoal. You know, this is what I use today because this is my forge and that's what I like. I use a propane one. I guess you can use an induction forge if you want.
This is 1/4 inch steel for those who really care. Now, we picked straight up order steel at Lowe's. You can look around and find out where your nearest metal depot is. Pick it up for cheaper, to be very honest. Also, online metal suppliers do exist. And you can get a pre-cut and a specific length and shipped to you for, an okay price.
Now, if you think you know, like, the length that you're going for, should you only order that length?
I mean, if that's the only thing you're making. Yeah. You can order it in a couple different lengths, have fun, experiment.
If you're brand new to this, like,
Yeah, order it roughly the length you want it, yeah. If you're new, order some lengths in a specific length you really want.
so if, like, say you make a mistake making this thing, it's going to be real easy to just go,
Yeah.
be able to fix it without having to, like, start over with the new length.
Well, yeah, or worst case, you can turn it into something else. But, like, if you screw it up, you can still cut off part of it if it's too mangled, and you could, like, make an S-hook. This is another thing I can show people how to do sometimes. S-hooks are very easy. The J-hook's even easier. These are all really simple things you can use around camp for hanging stuff, attaching stuff. J-hooks are, if you turn this up, this is the hook. If it turned up, then you had some way of attaching it into something. That's a J-hook. Okay. An S-hook is this back around on itself and more hooked. Measuring your metal when you start trips a lot of people up because they'll measure an edge and they'll get it all and then it won't be the right size.
Okay.
Metal is not measured by either side, but it is measured down the middle of the stock. Okay? Alright. I can illustrate that on this big bar here.
So for future Let's Craft videos, I'm going to be trying to be making the item right with the craftsperson themselves, so that it can kind of show you like a complete newbie doing this compared to a master crafter. However, there is a certain amount of danger involved, which Tanuki is about to tell you about, which is why I'm not going to be crafting this right along with him. So that's why shortly you will see just Tanuki for the majority of this video.
So, what are some of the dangers of smithing?
Fire. Straight up. Fire. You are working with fire. You probably, okay. Have you ever burned your hand on a pan in the oven?
Oh, sure.
Okay, what's that oven set to? 350, 400, 500 degrees?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. So steel turns colors at those, anywhere from kind of a light straw color to a blue. 500 is blue. 300 is like the lightest straw color you've ever seen. Well, here's the deal. That's enough to burn you. If you hit 700 degrees, you're getting a second degree burn. Steel does not glow red until around 1,000 to 1,100 degrees. You can have cold colored steel that has no indicator. I have had more injuries from that and know of more injuries from that because people picked up something they thought was cold because you can't see steel's color and you won't feel the radiant heat until you've already touched it. I have video of me doing this. It's hilarious to me. I have done it a bunch of times. I was unable to do combat. I had to sit out of entire events worth of fencing because I did it to myself, making tent stakes coming into the event. And I grabbed one that I thought had made it to the quench bucket. Please be careful on that. Do not let hot red steel. I don't care what you saw in a movie that did it. Somebody getting branded, that's for effect. They do brandings at like maybe 900 degrees. If you touch glowing red, you're fucked. Okay? I've had a glowing red piece hit my pants once in glance, and I almost crapped myself. That will cut you to the bone. 2,000 degrees will cut you to the bone, and you're not getting it back. Okay? House fires, I don't think quite hit that. Okay? And they do horrible damage to everything. Maybe they do get that hot. I'm not sure. I have to look. I know that molten metals, like if you put copper in there because you're doing some experimenting, please be careful. Copper melts at like 1,600 degrees, half
the temperature that steel melts at. Please be careful. The moment you can see a glow in something like copper, brass, bronze, if you're doing any work, that's as high as you need to go. That's where soldering happens. That's where annealing happens. Anything hotter than that, you risk melting it. Oh, by the way, if you get melted stuff in your forge, like melted copper or silver, you'll never be able to forge weld because it will atomize and get on your forge weld and prevent it from welding. Which sucks. Happened to a few people I know.
Starting from metal bends. Okay, right? Okay. So metal will bend, and it will shrink on one side and grow on the other. This is just like foam or plastic or any other pliable material. So you want to measure right down the center because that's the part that doesn't really change.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
And you can get really exact down to the centimeter or smaller if you're really good about taking exact measurements. I mean, there will always be variations thereof. So, I'm going to take this down off, and we may or may not need it later. Well, this guy is our piece of round bar. So, to get the size, we're going to start. You see this hook? We don't want to measure this. This is going to shrink. We want to measure this side. Because that's not going to change. Right? I like to just take a piece of string. It's the stupid easiest way. So we go right along. Just kind of pinch it along as we go. Until we hit a change. Now, you see here? This is going to stretch. So we rotate along so that we don't follow any stretching. Okay? And we follow it along here, because once again, that's the middle. And voila, that piece of string is how long we need of steel. It's actually that simple. Okay. And I happen to have, and I noticed sitting on my table, a piece of steel that is that much longer than we need.
What a crazy random happenstance.
Actually, it really is. This wasn't even the piece of stock I originally cut. It just happens to work. I have more over here. This is 3/16, what is it, it's a quarter-inch square. It's the same stock. I just happen to have this sitting there for another project. And this is round. Now, when they made this one, these are out a round bar, and that's cool.
Okay,
Am I too high?
Yeah.
Okay. So with this piece, it's right at the anvil. That is a round bar. So you can start with round bar, and it's inexpensive. I happen to have a good piece of square bar to start from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the grinder for 10 seconds.
Okay.
It's going to take that burr off.
So obviously we need the anvil, we need a hammer. What else are we going to need to make this this hook?
Well, realistically, you need an anvil.
This is a huge anvil.
No, it's not. It's a medium anvil at best. It's 100. This is a 155-pound anvil. The largest one I've ever seen was 625 pounds. It was this long and about that wide, about that tall.
Okay, if you were working on a budget, about how big of an anvil do you?
I mean, if you're just starting, Viking anvils were not big. The period Viking anvils were maybe this big tops, and about that tall, and they had a spike, and they were literally driven into wood.
Okay.
You can find a junker at Harbor Freight that's going to be terrible. There's lots of other resources out there for good anvils for stupid cheap. They're anvil-like objects. My favorite is an old piece of railroad track. 12, 14 inches of railroad track will do you. How do you get that? Well, you can go to the scrapyard, maybe they'll have it. Or, you can break the law, take some. I'm not going to encourage that. Or, you can talk to another blacksmith and get something like this made. This is a piece I picked up on the road. Somebody made this for their own self. These are threaded. Somebody was making bowls with this. But you need a horn. And you just need a flat surface. That's it.
Okay.
A vise is a cool item to have too. But not necessary. I'm using my post vise, which is just out of shot. Here we are. You could use something as simple as this. Literally a piece of an old piece of farm equipment that I found at a friend's place. You could use this. This would work. It's not going to be as nice as my anvil, but it'll get the job done. It's even got some bolt holes you can attach it to a stump or something. So, you know, for a budget, I mean, if you want to be an ultimate budgetarian, my blacksmithing teacher started off using a quartz boulder that he and his twin brother rolled into their yard when they were like 13, and a ball peen hammer he stole from his dad.
So what other tools will we need? The hammer, the anvil,
Tongs.
tongs.
These are a pair of wolf jaws. You can pick them up cheap. For my first pair of tongs, I found at a secondhand store for $5. They're right here. Somebody made these probably for a class or goofing off or who knows. $5 at a what was it? Oh, what is that place? It's some hipster store now. Battery Street Jeans.
Okay.
They used to have neat stuff like that there back in the 90s. And you can still find it. You go to an antique store or something, find them. So, I'm going to take this little burr off.
Okay. And we're doing that over the grinder?
Yeah. So, this is my grinder. You don't need one like this. You really don't. My original grinder, they don't make anymore, but you can find them on the cheap. Or you can build one if you're crazy. Or just good like that. I know some people do. So I'm going to run this on slow so it's quiet enough. Blow wheel. All I'm doing, taking that end off. Is that a sharp cut off? Now it don't. Now it's flat. Now it's the right size. So we need to think about how do we want to start this, right? Now, in this case, so on the original piece, you can see they flattened and stretched that. So I didn't measure that because I knew I was going to have to flatten that out and stretch it. But all they did was flatten it. I'm going to forge a tip and roll it because that's the way I was taught. What the heck? Oh, there it is. I'm going to stick this in here. It's just a little tool rest, kind of a thingamajig. So while we're here, let's talk about forges. So mine is a propane forge. I like propane. It's pretty easy to deal with. Let's get one in here. Propane, great, easy. You can find stuff online if you're tech savvy to build your own. Not the worst. I didn't build mine in the end. I had money, so I spent them on a good one. People can ask me later what I think of various models because I've talked to a lot of folks around. But maybe for $100 tops, you can build your own. Now, option B is finding an old, like a riveter's forge. I have one out in the back. And they look, you know, the old-fashioned crank and all that. Hey, running those is a difference between automatic transmission and manual transmission with coal versus gas. That's really honestly it. And if you're comfortable driving manual, maybe you can do coal. I don't do coal often. I just found out from the head of the East Kingdom Blacksmith Guild that you can use lump hardwood charcoal just fine in an old riveter's forge. He has had great success with it, which makes my day because I hate burning coal. Ask me why later. Beyond the smell, by the way. I just don't like it. So we're getting hot in the forge. You don't need fancy to get started, but once you get to a certain level, you do. I guess you think. Don't expect to make, you know, like a Damascus sword with, you know, a little brick forge with a, you know, a little cheap thing. You're not going to do it easy. Maybe you will. Maybe you're crazy. I don't. No. Like, start simple. I always get asked about swords, you know, at least once a show. And it's, to do them right, to do them the way I was taught, there's a couple of pieces of tech you need. You can technically heat treat them in these. What you do is you would take the blade. Don't touch this with your fingers, kids. Please, don't touch this with your fingers. I will tell you stories about it. See how it's glowing? So that color, probably about 1700 degrees.
Wow.
So for frame of reference, that's still too cold to work mild steel cleanly, so I'm gonna crank my gas a little. Give myself a little more oxygen. I want a little more heat in there. So 1700 degrees, so frame of reference, second degree burns happen about 1,000 degrees less. I can tell you this from personal experience, having like literally blistered my whole hand from side to side, touching a piece that I did not realize had not made it in the water bucket.
Ouch.
Yeah. Oh, there's blooper reels of me screaming, touching hot metal because somebody put something where it shouldn't have been, and I didn't realize it was still hot.
No one has been harmed in the making of this video.
Except me.
His feelings were hurt.
Oh no, anytime. So, yeah, so 1700 degrees. A little more would be working carbon steel, which we'll talk about your first knife another day. I'm not even going there. Everybody asks me, oh, we make a knife? Yeah, it's, listen.
That could be a whole other.
That's a video
whole
series knives. There are much more qualified people that have done this in video series. But I'm happy to do it again if people bug me. So, what I'm doing, I'm gripping it, right? I'm gripping it long and as ergonomically as I can. I'm going to come out to the anvil and I'm going to put just the end right here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. By the way, you can use this as a straight edge to... Now notice, it's getting colder, and it looks like it has no heat. I can see, and the camera can't, that there's a slight bit of redness to that, okay? You can still move it a tiny bit. Don't be swinging hard at that. You really don't want it. What you want to do is be tapping it, and what you're trying to do, when it's really hot, it'll squish like clay, right? And you can pinch it, you can mold it. As it cools off, you can tap it. Well, tap it. Give it, you give it a good wrap, and it smooths your metal. Okay, so that's the biggest. Don't try to try to forge smoothly, but to get a really smooth finish, that's what you do. Okay, I'm just going to make a tiny little bit of adjustment while it's hot. Okay, so it's nice and warm. So what I do is I take this over the edge, and I start hitting it in one direction. Okay? Then I roll it over, I hit it back, and I get a little more heat on it. The thinner your metal, the quicker it will get cold. My anvil, a little cold today. What do you normally do, and I didn't do because I was talking? I have an anvil warmer. Call him Fred Bupkiss, one of my first attempts at a knife. Literally, this was, I was 20 years old with an angle grinder. No idea what I was doing. I hadn't actually learned anything yet. It'd be later that summer that I would finally meet a guy who wanted to teach me a little bit. So, but I found a chunk of steel out of nowhere and I started grinding it. I have since ground the tip from sharp to blunt, and I ground the little pommel off. And I stick him in there, warm him up, and I just put him on my anvil, kind of get it warm, you know? And as you can see, I've also dumped it in oil. It's kind of crusty. What happens, I warm up my oil that way too.
Okay.
I heat it up and I just put it in the oil temperature on, which is a whole other sequence involving knives. So I'm not going there. So, what kind of steel am I using today? Is mild steel, low carbon steel. 1018 is another. There's names for it. It's not rare, it's hard to find. So I just come back here again. I'm just trying to sort of beat this end over. With these backward shot blows. And what we're trying to do. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my primary blows. I'm also going really slow here so that people can sort of see it.
We'll probably have to cut between. Just like I'm heating it up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think it's going to be as bad as you think it is. But probably not. No, it won't be that bad. So, I've got that scroll mostly finished. Part of the way I'm going to close it up. It's a little bit of a compound move. This is the horn of the handle, guys. So, I want to look. And, see this guy. We're about on the horn in this form, right? And there are different size horns. My horn over there is a pointier horn. That one wouldn't be bad to use, but since the camera's right here, I'm a rock and roll. So, you take it with the scroll up. I start beating it around. That closes you can see how that scale. We take a wire brush, and we knock some of that. All that is some of the steel burning right off of it. So I'm gonna gently push it away so that it lays flat. Okay? So we're looking pretty good. We get a little heat on that and do some little refining moves. Get that scroll pinch tight. So that's a big part of it right there, folks. So, this is rounded stock. It did not start that way. I'm pretty sure it started as 1/4 inch. And then there's a rib here on either side that tells me they used the tool. I have to know it myself. Like this. That has rounding on it. And they didn't quite adjust for that rib. So you've got some rib marks. So, and that's all. And that's, that's a very normal way of working on these things. You know what I'm saying? So, all I'm doing is flattening and refining at this point. Close that hole up. Make sure that hook looks the way I want it to. So I'm over the edge here. I'm gonna do a deeper hook if I feel like it. Maybe. Or I can do that. Straight there a few times, make a shallower hook. Whatever makes you happy. Or whatever your design plan is. Be great. How's that look? Yep. Yeah, it looks like it's hitting that pretty darn close. I just did it slightly different because that's part of the art of blacksmithing. Now, this is a step where you could put a twist in the middle if you wanted. You want to put a twist in drink? Let's not go there today. Okay, that's fine. We also have this piece. Now, this is a thicker, this is a 3/8 rod. And it's the right size to make a bigger one. Okay. Now, hooked onto a post, you notice this sits to the side of the post. There is a way, I don't know if we got that on camera. This hooks to the side of the post, right? there is a way to recenter this. I kind of think I'm going to do that. Alright. Just sort of put it in the middle of the post, because that's nice to have.
Idea I just had.
Alright. So at this point, I'm just sharpening up this curve and dropping that. I like a nice deep hook on these. It's just a personal, whatever. I'm not trying to get fancy, but I don't like that. Notice, my head is here. Your head is here. You like your teeth, kids? Because I like mine. I watched some, I don't know, we're close to nothing, right? Ooh, that's me. I'm going to stick this back in here for half a second and go grab something important. Oh, water bucket. I'm about to show off a little secret. If you look around, everybody's like, well, you can get a Lowe's bucket. Yes, I like melting plastic too, or not. Old military ammo can, guys. Seriously. This is good enough for a master smith, which is the first person I ever saw get one. Do this. It's also where I keep my oil. But water. So when you're working with a gas forge, the heat's coming straight at your tool. Cool the tip of your tool. Okay? Heat's coming straight at the tip of your tool. It's going to heat your tool up. You got to dip it in the water. Okay? So I'm about done messing with this end. So I'm going to clean it up. Really get the junk off it, you know? One of my other buddies in the business, some of y'all locally, they know Tom the Blacksmith. He's quite good at this part. His stuff always has a really nice finish to it. I'm just looking for any high spots. Come in, another really this is your chance to make your stuff look good. You know? So, it's gray. Woo! In the water. Room temperature. Count to 10. Please, count to 10. Always count to 10.
Maybe you should have done that before, because now we're taking Tanuki to the hospital for first-degree burns. No, I'm kidding.
Not yet, we're not.
I'm kidding.
You think so? You know how many times I've burnt myself in here?
No, I don't. I'm just going to say no, I don't.
Well, the last time I was shooting stuff for EK, I burned myself. What does that tell you?
All right, so what's next?
Well, we got to put this curve in. Now, admittedly, I'm going to do something a little extra special. But, you get a rough idea of your material. Okay. We want our friend the string. We got a little piece of string. So our curve, I want to factor in a little extra because I'm going to need some. So we do the same thing we did last time. So about that. So go on this and be wary where you touch your metal. So right about here. Right? So I have, there it is. You get these at Lowe's. This is chalk. Okay, that's all it is. Alright, so I'm gonna give myself a little extra. Gotta be dry. All this is welder's marking chalk. You can also You see that?
Yep.
Yes, welder's marking chalk. Okay, now I'm going to stick it in the other way. Man, that's a double entendre. Now, theoretically, I will be able to see that welding chalk. Right? Kind of guesstimate what I'm doing. I say kind of because, yeah. Right? Now, this guy right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this further. I'm going to bend it all the way back on itself, and then bend it back again. So that it goes halfway. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'll know when you'll see it. When you see it. All right. Oh yeah, right. This thing's the right size. So this is the size of the tent pole it's looking to hook onto, and you can see it really sticks up when it has no weight on it, and it sits all the way off to the side of the pole. I'm gonna. Do I even need to? For some of the big hooks, I see them recenter them for like, you know, if your pole is that, it's like that, you know, 2.5 inches or whatever. I need to recenter that. And not necessary. It's small enough, it doesn't matter. But basically, all you do is you bend it tight. You know what I'm saying? You bend this back on itself and bend it again. You put kind of a funny shape in it, basically. I can illustrate that. I can literally draw it out for you. Not a big deal. You don't do it. So, when working on the steel, you have two options. You can start from the end, or you can start from your mark. I'm going to start from my mark, like you see it. Just looking for my mark here. I'm just going to straighten it, bend it, straighten it, bend it, straighten it. I'm twisting it because it's trying to twist on me as it goes. Yep, should be good. So what I'm going to do now is there is an easy, so this is the long way, right? And you can just do this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to stick it in the vise to help keep it from twisting on me. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. I don't like starting things in the vise usually, but sometimes I will. But finishing in the vise does not hurt my feelings. Okay. Well, this will give me a nice crisp turn. So here we are in the vise. You can also use the vise to wiggle your metal. Right? Make an adjustment. You see how much quicker that went?
Yep.
Okay. I put a nice 90 on it. I'm gonna plug it back. Okay. There we go. Okay, so far so good, huh, folks? We're at 90 degrees. And then there's the trick to it, which is how to make those turns. And how to make those turns, there's more than one way to do it. You can have an anvil tool in this hole. You know, you see the hole in the anvils. You always see them. Well, that's for holding tools. Right? Like this thing. That's just a nice round thing. I can roll things around. And that's great. Cool. Fantastic. Don't need it. Got that. More than you'll have to start, so I'm not going to use it. You could probably find a Vise and Habitat for Humanity, or in a junkyard, or your granddad's barn, or I don't know. Harbor Freight. I mention them a lot.
LARP Limit, not officially endorsing Harbor Freight.
Yeah, me neither, but if you gotta get some shit cheap. So, this is another handy little trick I do. This thing is an 1.5 bar. You can also just have a piece of cheap hollow pipe, but it gives you an idea where to make your bend, okay? If that makes any sense. So you just set it up like that, and you know how much you want to bend it, right? And you just kind of start bending it. Now, the easy way to do that from here, go under here. Now, I have overestimated how much material I need. Even though I drew a line, and I did that on purpose, actually. I'll tell you why in a minute. I'll show you one other thing you can do, which is straighten your work right back out. This is why, like I said, it's like working with clay. Because I could have done this. I used a marker. Well, what happens if you make a mistake?
Yeah.
Well, I made us a mistake to correct. Huh.
Tanuki missed the mark.
Funny about that. So, like I said, steel is like clay. So we've done all this work. Oh well, no biggie. Watch. So I open it up a little. I get it across the anvil high, okay? Right. That's one of your big worries. Don't worry about it. Right? You can always cut the metal, which happens. You can always go back and just bend it back straight, right? Cool! Easy! Surprisingly easy, actually. It's really not as... Mistakes in blacksmithing are fine, especially on easier pieces. I made tons of mistakes early on, so that was how quick was that?
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to try this. When you're in craft, it's gotta screw up.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's how I learned, foam fighting is,
right.
keep fucking up until you stop fucking up.
Oh yeah, no, I'm fucking hate fuck up on some of this stuff, trust me. So, finish taking the high points out of my bends. Here we go. And that's straight enough now that I can start back in on it. Cool! So, this time, I'm going to do a little different trick here. There's lots of tricks. Now, cool part, find your local scrap yards. Find a piece this big, 2-3 inches, okay? Go to your local school's tech center or something. Ask them to weld a little another nub of steel so you can stick it to a stump. One of my earliest anvils was a stump. My first anvil, me personally, was an I-beam. A piece of I-beam I found at the junkyard. It rung like the devil's bell. It hurt my ears. But it worked.
Wear your protection kits.
Yeah, please do. I'm not with mine because I have an iron body steel top anvil. If you can find them, cool. If not, here's the difference in noise. Not bad, right? Also notice, it bounces back. You need that. That means the carbon's hard. This is my other anvil. Hear that?
That's got that clear ring to it.
Yeah.
That is dwarf approved right there.
Well, that's also a really nice high-end anvil that happens to have been through hell back and back again. Oh, so it's got that nice help for you. A little bit. So you see what I'm doing here? So that was my measure in my initial bit. Woohoo! And yeah, that's why it looks like shit. Right. So, I just kind of roughly mark that. And the last thing we're going to do, you'll notice that this has an angle. I'm trying to figure out where your lens is.
Yep.
You see how it's got that angle? That'll be the last thing. And that's where this comes in handy, but you can do it freehand. All of this can be done freehand. Actually, a railroad track would be really good for this. Especially if you're going one end flat and the other a little round. You can taper it. So, go to Harbor Freight, spend like $20 on an angle grinder. Make yourself an anvil. I'm trying to keep it cheap for y'all. So even if you forget something like I just did, it's okay. There we go. Now you do like that. Take the bar. That actually works. So I'm just gonna straighten it back out for a second. I need to give myself a little bit more. I'm just horsing around a little bit. So. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. There we go. And you just saw me do a little, that snake hit. If you know where you're hitting on your metal, it's just geometry. Once again, I emphasize, getting yourself some clay. Modeling clay. Get a hammer. Get an anvil-like object. Practice your hitting. Especially if you don't have a shop that's accessible year-round. Like, you know, let's say you can only do it in your yard. You live in Vermont, and like, you know, you don't want to go outside and try to freeze your nips off every time you want to hit a piece of metal. And some of us do.
Should you do this in a one-room efficiency?
How much does your landlord like you? Just saying. This is where having the steel bar makes it easy. Say I can get that in there pretty well. Back here. I gotta move this steel bar. Be careful about touching your tooling. This steel bar is tooling. Be careful. See how we're getting really good shape now? So you bend it over. Boom, like you saw me do. You bend it again, and you can bend it all the way around this square edge back here.
So you could do that like if you didn't have like...
Yeah, if you didn't have this.
Okay.
I highly recommend just go to a local steel place. You know how much this cost me? $5. You can get pieces this big for like $1. They really will give them to you. They're called drops. Ask to see the drop collection. Get a whole bunch of different bar sizes. Go get a bunch of round ones too. This will make it so much easier for you. And I think a lot of folks don't realize you can just walk in there and ask them. You know, unless they're really mean, they'll hook you up. Sometimes if they don't really care, they'll give it to you for next to nothing. I've heard of that. So now you see I gotta back this way. I mean, heck, this steel bar, not too bad, right? Okay, hey, that looks, now I'm just going through and refining that shape. I've got a little bit of a natural angle to it. But I'm going to clean that up. I'm going to set the angle exactly how I want it. Brush time! I got a little wiggle. From all this action, you get transferred kinetic force down the piece that you're working on. You can see there's a little bend there, so the fix that too. That can be reduced by pouring cold water on everywhere but the area you want to work on. I just don't know where my scoop is, so I don't bother worrying about it. I'm gonna make out the scoop. And that's why a nice water bucket helps. You literally, because this isn't knife steel, you won't blow it to smithereens by pouring cold water on it. And actually, if you only do it a little, even on hot knife steel, it won't blow it to smithereens. Common misconception. Now, if you dunk it, you might. You don't know what you're doing. Like, don't keep dunking things, you know. So I'm using as much anvil as I can to make this as a straight edge. If that makes sense. Because you're looking for a certain amount of flattening out. Alright. So you come over this edge. You just tap it and it puts that angle in. So all you need is not blacksmithing in its essence. You always see it in movies and TV and fantasy. And they're going, "Whoa! Do not do that. Please."
What if the steel pissed you off?
Huh?
What if the steel is asking for it?
Let me explain to you where that compost is actually nothing except maybe making your problem worse. If the steel's asking for a whole lot of accuracy, it'll make it do exactly what you want. Blacksmithing is about finesse. It's like bondage. Finesse. It requires consent. I mean, that too. You gotta ask the steel nicely first. What's the steel asking for? I usually assume it's something like banana, you know, a word it can't say. Steel's the biggest pervert you'll ever meet. It never gets up. So I just did that to try to get a nice flat in it. You know what I'm saying? Make sure so I have different size hammers. So, I have a less aggressive curve in mind. This guy's a little deeper. You see what I'm saying? Probably about. What do you drink? Look at that, man.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll see.
Like I said, you can bend that pole. Be really careful. I can see a certain amount of heat in my work that you can't on camera.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to true up that corner. Because it is about 3 degrees out. When I do it, you'll see. There's literally just a degree or two to take out there. This stuff that I'm not even going to get it super hot. Now, another good thing that more than one set of tongs, folks. You can do it with small pieces. Just kind of, bend them. If you're strong, you can put a little bend in there. I've made a surprising number of objects by just having two pair of good tongs, getting it hot enough, just bending it. You'd be surprised how pliable this stuff is. And then you just cool it off. And you're good. We have a working hook. We just happen to have the illustrious thorn hole set up right now for various and sundry reasons. It's eventually getting painted and decorated. So, this is a pole. Let's say, theoretically, you want to hang your cloak inside. Right? It's going to be tight. Both of these are going to be tight. These were made for a smaller pole. These are custom poles. And it just kind of gets on there and hangs. You can put a lantern, actually.
hook on it? Yep. Hey! These are heavyweight, oversized custom maple poles that part of the thorn hole. I will have to make a few more for thorn later because I think they wanted a few. But yeah, these are for something that's a little more like that. So when you're making these, know what size pole you're getting, you know, or what size pole you're making for somebody. Like my opening on this is a little bigger than the one on this, so I can actually slip it on there. Actually, let's go for the junction where it's a little thinner. There we go. And it sits, it hangs. There we go. All right.
Any last tips that you would give people for making a hook like this?
A little bit of planning, a lot of practice. A little bit, like, plan out, like, take your measurements, write them down. Have a steel ruler nearby so you can take measurements. Go slow. I made one legitimate mistake, and a couple of them that I wanted to show that, you know, you don't have to be afraid. Just practice. Just do it. Just keep doing it. You know, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be ugly. That's okay. Work on your form. Watch some videos on hammer technique. Protect your body. So that's the other thing. This can hurt you as much as anything. So if you watch me, you don't want to be sitting here with your forearm. That's going to wear your forearm and your grip out. You're going to wreck yourself. Use your shoulder and the whole arm and let gravity throw the hammer for you. I have a friend of mine who uses a 6-pound hammer. This is a 2-pounder. This is a 6-pounder. He makes silver rings with a 6-pound hammer because he knows how to mechanically control it. You won't do that today. You won't do that tomorrow. You build up to that. He did too. But good technique will protect you from shoulder, rib, chest, and back injuries.
I've been Drake McLeod, and I am still Tanuki. And this is LARP Living, and we just made pole hangers. Stay safe, stay healthy, be well. Keep your pants on.
Hello, this is Drake McLeod. This is my let's try that again because I stumbled over my words near the end of it.
What camera am I looking at?
That one. We're looking okay.
But that's what I think. Oh, that's what
That's on me.
I don't know what I'm doing. I've only ever used one camera, and it was held by my asshole apprentice and fucking pointed at his face.
We're being fancy now. Hello, I'm Drake McLeod. This is my colleague. We're gonna have to do that again. We'll adjust the angle and then we can start talking about
Adjust that.
Okay, so
Next time, we'll make you do something. Oh yeah. Don't threaten me with a good time. I'll show you something.